Have you noticed the one thing that separates the junglers from the winning team and the losing team in the scoreboard? Every jungler is doing this thanks to the jungle changes and of course the jungle pets. Yes, that's right, it's CS per minute, otherwise known as CSPM. Everyone's complaining about the ganking and the fighting, yet people are still getting 7, 8, 9, 10 CS per minute on junglers. So how exactly is that working, and how can you do it? And if you are a farming jungler, how can we make it so that you can dominate the meta with what you're already good at? We will look at everything you need to know to make farming junglers work in Season 13, and if you aren't a farming jungler, you will just be one after this while still maintaining your ganking and skirmishing ability. Does that sound good? Of course it does. Let's get into it. Now, just as a sort of context, yes, of course, you can farm well and you can, of course, lose. You can have high CSPM and just have a bad time. But the principles I'm going to give you here will work 100% if you are a farming jungler. Think your Karthus, Diana, your Udyr, your Fiddlesticks, anything that enjoys sequencing. If you are something that enjoys cutting the map, ganking and rotating, Hecarims, for example, obviously we're still farming junglers, but even if you're playing something like a Rek'Sai or a Sylas, it can be very easy to get 7 CS per minute while maintaining ganking and fighting tempo. And don't forget, on January 30th, we will be having an all-role bootcamp, myself and Coach Kai, taking you through the jungle, mid lane, top lane, bot lane, everything you need to know from every position to get through Season 13 and beyond. Click the link below and I hope to see you all there. And for this one, we're going to start off with an Udyr game because last year we used Karthus and the year before we used Shyvana, and then we've used Nocturne as well. Any farming jungler that have sort of adapted these strategies for into the relevant season, they can basically carry these forward and keep going with it. If you're playing any of those farming junglers that I said and would have shown in the infographic at the beginning, you can use these strategies. Likewise, if you're ganking jungle and off-meta jungler, look at the Zyra game. You can do it here as well. High KP, high CS per minute. I mean, you're not losing out anything, right? So, Udyr over here is basically going to do the full clear. Now, what we don't need to do is watch the full clear in slow motion. We're going to speed up a lot of these sequences because it's the theory of what we're doing, not necessarily the speed at which we watch it. We have bottom lane, don't care. We have mid lane, don't care. We have top lane, don't care. Well, I mean, as we do care because we cross over, we finish the blue side. We do care, but we don't care outside of the context of our first clear. We want to make sure the first clear is done as fast as possible. We want to get 24 CS, hit the Scuttle Crab here, get 28 CS, and that's your first basic concept of a farming jungler. Now, if you happen to be something like the Rengar, that concept is the same, right? We're not a farming jungler, but we still want to accomplish the same goals early. Now, if you paid attention to the gameplay channel, you pay attention to the meta at all, you know that we have things like Hecarims and Dianas and other sorts of junglers that typically full clear, looking and doing sort of red quadrants into gangs, because that allows them to flex potential invades in the 1v1s that they win, flex a bottom lane gank afterwards, and of course, if nothing's available, we can fall back to our blue side and carry on good sequencing. So what is sequencing and why is it important? Sequencing is where we take Gromp first, then Wolves, then Raptors, then Krugs, okay? Why is that important? Because these will now respawn Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Krugs. The whole idea behind our first clear is to set us up for a sequence in a direction that we enjoy, such that we can keep looping those camps as fast as possible, because we clear quickly. And even though there is a bit of a ganking, running around, fisting meta, if we can clear quickly, we can rotate quicker because we're not busy farming like, say, a ganking jungler might be if they decided to try and match our tempo. So what this allows us to do here, and you see the pings on the mini-map, that's why I made it big, from the Rengar. We'll just pause it here. He's on the bottom side, 319, basically the same speed as an Udyr, right? Which is something that you should go, well, I don't think of Rengar as a farming jungler, but he goes to the same speed. Exactly. That's why many junglers with the jungle pets and obviously the new reality are able to match these CSPM tempos just by playing intelligently. Now, obviously, we're going to focus on the Udyr here because I want you farming junglers to first understand that, hey, it's okay to fight, it's okay to rotate, but first and foremost, you must sequence. What we want to do is a full clear plus crab and then a gank. Now, obviously, if you are something like the Rengar or any sort of Elise, this should be what you're doing. Look for these, I mean, that's just tragic. Horrifically sad flash, actually, for the Samira. Perfect though. The Udyr in the meantime has done his gank mid lane. He just did a drive-by. He knows who the Rengar is now, and so he can go for the fight here. The Rengar is going to have to give this up. I hope he does instead of going for a fight, but you know, maybe the Udyr is going to force the action here. The Pike comes over the wall, is going to go on the Karma. The Udyr is going to go and fight the Rengar here, turn back into the Karma now for the chase down. We will have E up in 2. And it's up. Here we go. Let's go. Let's get the stun. Come on. Hook. Fistings. Excellent. Auto attacks. Swap into Phoenix. And we get a kill. So this is the important part about the meta as a farming jungler that I want you to pay attention to. And I want you to pay attention to Wait, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Rengar is staying out. We're still going for the fight. He thinks he can fight an Udyr with Hail of Blades. Fascinating. Lulu comes over the wall. Flash, kill. Caitlyn's in a bit of an awkward position. We get the stun, create the distance. She flashes. She E's to create the gap close. Gets the auto attack, gets the kill. Pike autos, and we fall. So this right here is great pros and cons, which is why I didn't choose a challenger game. Because sometimes I choose a challenger game, and what happens is it's so perfect, you can't relate to it. Which is great for core examples, right? But if we want to have a fluid discussion about things, it's not always the most important. Now, what we have here, more importantly, is good practices that this guy's going to use to get to 9 TS per minute, with also a few flaws, but excellent destruction of the enemy jungler, which is what we want. So, what was good about that? We did a full clear, we took a crab, we drove by the mid lane, the Rengar decided not to do his crab because he saw a dive, which of course was the right play to make, and then in this case, we just had to leave, and everyone had to leave, but everyone just decided to do an elongated fight. So the champions who can thrive in these sorts of fights at level 4 with no items are the ones that are going to be really good early. Now you might be thinking, well, doesn't that kind of remove certain champions from the meta? Well, I made a gameplay review of an Amumu the other day, and guess what? He beat a Shaco 1v1 in the bottom river, level 4, same thing, full clear crab, kill the enemy jungler 1v1, get a gank off, reset, and now we sequence again, right? So look what he's doing. Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Krugs. You're farming jungler, this is the way, this is the mantra. The only way you cut this, and again, there are a lot of high elo junglers who are the players, not the champions, where they actually just say, let me cook, I'm not farming. Now look at this, you see here the Mundo has pressed his ultimate button, the cannon is pushed in, but it's a pushed up wave. We are now level 5, we finished 2 sequences, so we should have that juicy 44 CS, but because we got a crab on the bottom side, we have 48 CS, hopefully you can see that. We see the Mundo, we're tracking sums while we're farming, and then we go ahead and do some good chase downs. The Phoenix slows obviously are going to be very nice, and we of course have mega stuns. But because most people are going to say, well look, obviously Phoenix Udyr is going to do the giga farming, right? I went with the Q-Max Udyr to show you a little bit more pain. So, what is the importance of the flex strategy in terms of flex decision making for farming junglers? Because now, what would most of you do in most elos? Most elo farming junglers, to pause it again, would go back to base here and then try and sequence again, defend the dragon, defend their blue. No, this is where you get the real big denial. This season is big on taking these kinds of fights, rotating to good fights that you can win. Good fight selection is very, very important. And then of course, counter jungling. Because most people thought, hey, 20% reduction, it's going to be terrible. So then everyone started counter jungling to see and realize, wait, this is actually kind of good. And we can still easily snack away these camps. We see the Rengar here in the bottom lane. We see our team. And as a farming jungler, your job is to go, whatever happens, happens. Que sera, sera, as it were, to use terrible accents to mock those who say it that way. But that's the whole point, right? The point is to see this and go, okay, I'm watching. Nice. I'll take your blue. Cool. I'm level 6. All right, I'm going back to base now. You've got it, right? First sequence, we go bottom to top. Second sequence, we go bottom to top. And in both cases, we flex the crab, we flex the gank potentially, and then we go back to base. Now what's going to happen is the faster you start sequencing, it's going to leave you even bigger time between the finishing of your sequence and the restarting of your sequence, which is why it's very important to fill that time with, as we can quote Step Brothers, activities. So you don't have bunk beds, you know, in the jungle, but what we do have is blue buffs we can snack. We have fights we can have. We have lanes we can gank. And that will fill the time that you have after finishing Krugs and the Grump respawning again, okay? So that's all concept. Now, the unique thing about farming junglers that makes you super, super strong and potent, and again, anyone can use these principles, any type of jungler. I use these on Zyra and on jungle. That's how I get those CSs. What you do is you go Grump, Wolves, and I'm going to pause it here, and then you go down to the dragon and you snack it. When would this be a good play for us, for example? Well, we see the Rengar on the top side, ganking in this top lane. Hopefully you're tracking their CS, but I'll leave a link to a video in the description which will explain exactly how to track this kind of stuff really, really easily, and you should be good to go from that. Here now we have the decision. What is the most important thing in my mind as a jungler? You have two decisions. One, I can rotate, defend, help, and kind of fall back to my quadrant, or do my quadrant and then collapse. I have the Herald I can play with. I know the Rengar went to the top side and realized, hey, there's no blue, so I better dive the top lane. So what we could do is cut the map. That means we've been sequencing beautifully, right? On loop. And then what we do is we say, listen, I'm going to stop sequencing because you know I'm sequencing. And because you're feeling a little bit desperate down already 24 CS from the Rengar's perspective, yeah, I'm going to just cut down here and go ahead and snack this dragon. Or I could go and take all of your stuff, dive bot lane, and then snack the dragon. And if he decides, hey, I'm going to steal your Krugs red Raptors, he could. But if we have a scanner up and we use it and there's no one there and they don't see us, For the Rengar, that's a very risky play, right? Because he has no idea where we are. He has to call the bluff in accordance with the map. Now, of course, it is warded here, so in this case, he would be safer to do the red. So the Udyr's play works out nicely for him, but you never know that when you're going to make the play, right? Don't results base it. If you decided, oh look, Rengar's top lane, I better just go and take all of the stuff, then yes, you'd be seen. However, when you have high rotational ability, as you do when you're Udyr, well, I didn't know that was going to happen, then you can always move into those fights, and as Hecarim, you can also move into those fights. As Warwick, you can move into those fights. But this is very much the farming jungler way. Have you noticed? He didn't look to cut the map. He just said, I'm gonna go Raptors, I'm gonna go red. Rengar died being an idiot. If Rengar didn't die, I was gonna kill him for being an idiot, but now that he is dead, regardless of whatever outcome it is, I'm gonna do the Herald. I'm gonna cut the map, but instead of cutting the map here, right, we can cut the map running through this way. Now he decided to do the Raptors into the red first, because obviously the idea was to kind of shadow the Rengar. We finished the Herald, we could just hit the plant down to the Wolves to see if something else happened there. And in the meantime, again, I do think this cut here could have been super juicy, but it's an active decision to say I want to help top, I want to sequence and get Herald, or do I want to counter jungle red side and get Dragon? Based upon the map state and the game state, you will make that decision. Which lane do you want to kind of get fed? In this particular case, my ADC is looking like a bit of a lemon, and my Chad top lane is looking like, well, a bit of a Chad. And now you're looking at this, look at this, there's no Gromp, there's no Wolves. We sequenced, did a Herald, walked into the jungle, went back to base, and there's no Gromp up yet. We're still waiting, our farming has already increased so quickly. So what do? Before we go farming again, we say, can I gank? Can I commit an action? Can I take an objective? Can I make something happen? We're using the Phoenix here, obviously she stopwatches it, so we're gonna move on to the Caitlyn. This is the important one we want to kill, she forces a flash and a kill, and now there's a full wave we can snack. Where are we getting our CS here? Strategic sequencing. Rengar says, well, I guess I can just kill top lane. So what did he do here from the last time we saw him? He has red, he obviously sequenced the whole thing up and went to the top side. So what the Udyr can say is, well, good thing I took the Herald, then I can use this for my own cash money infusion right now and really get strong. At the same time, you could also just sit on it and wait until, 11, 12 minutes and go to another lane. But as a farming jungler knows, what's the most important thing for us? Our own econ, getting that gold cash money. This won't break the tower, obviously, but it will get it pretty low. And from this, we can go to the dragon because, again, Rengar sequence bottom to top. And now he's going to be coming out of base with more itemization. So we should probably do this quickly as our bottom lane comes out of the base fresh with itemization and the wave has crashed. Take the objective, and then we can piss off and go back to farming. Literally, that's it, my friends. That's a 12-minute game plan. And what you're seeing here is a 2-1-3 jungler who didn't rotate to all of these scenarios that I'm kind of suggesting that we would, and instead just focused on hardcore sequencing. So what's stopping you, whatever farming jungler you're playing, from doing the same thing? If you're Nocturne, same thing, right? Because you're waiting for your ultimate. You're playing around your ultimate. That's what we're looking to do. Rengar now, of course, resets, as we said, going to be on the bottom side based upon the tracking and the showing top lane. So the Rengar showing bot lane will go back here. We're on the Raptors. Now again, we have a split in our decision making, but it's cookie cutter easy. Do I go to the Krugs and then look to gank the top lane again? Do I go to the Krugs and then look to do the crab into the blue? Same kind of loop. But this RNG crab is up right now. And with farming junglers, it can be very easy to get stuck in this full lap sequencing. Of course, if you want to camp bot lane and dragon, you're probably going top down, right? Just depends on what your philosophy is and what you want to accomplish. At the same time, going bottom to top can work fine because you gank, you show, you reset, you gank first, and then you fall back to sequencing. Which also works out quite nicely because you know that while you're sequencing, you have fixed the lane in its control. When you farm first and then go for the gank, something could happen whereby you have to cut your farming and sort of rotate into that situation, which isn't always what you want. So here now, we're on the Raptors, of course. We decide, look, with Rengar there, outside in rule dictates I must take the outermost thing from my jungle, crab, blue, and of course there's a gank possibility in the mid lane here with the Cassio. Now, this won't work out too well because, of course, it's a Cassio. She wants you to turn and run. She has miasma. She has percentage damage. She's going to chunk you. Look at this. Look at this. She already has a Rod of Ages. She's quite tanky to reference the X-Peke. He's too tanky from many, many years ago. Rengar's on the bottom side here. That's fine. The point is, once you get to 12, 15 minutes, all you're looking to do is be as strong as possible. Now, the Rengar is 4-3-3, but his sequencing hasn't been good. If your sequencing can be good and you can do what the Rengar is doing, you'd have a much better time. Now, obviously, when the bottom lane tower falls, you can expect people to start to rotate like supports and ADCs. So you do have to be aware when we're counter jungling here, they're going to start to kind of move around the map. Don't greed yourself for a crab. Just let the crab fall. Cut away from the Mundo. Use your speed, your escape. Hecarim's, most junglers can do that. Shyvana's as well. Fiddlesticks might be dead, but you're probably sucky anyway. We've gone back to base, and we're going to the top side, because the Krugs are available. We're going to get to the Krugs after basing before the Grump would even spawn. So this timer is very, very important. Remember, 2:15, take it, look at 2:15, it's the start of your sequence. There it is. So now we're going to say we took this now at 40 minutes, we know at 16:15, we're going to have a Grump again. Well, 16:20, right? Because we have to take it. So that's the kind of stuff you need to track when you're looking at your direction out of base as a farming jungler. In the meantime, we basically go, look, I could have taken the Krugs and go bottom side for the blue and ended up in the same situation. But instead, I'm just going to base because I'm low in case they invade, and I'm going to go ahead and take this, cut into the mid lane, get the gank. Now there's so much downtime between sequencing, we can afford to go and make some good plays. Now, what I want you to look at in terms of a top to bottom game, like if we start top side and go down, and maybe with a bit more of that reaction rotation sort of gameplay, that's probably more of what you might be looking for as a ganking jungler. I do recommend the Diana gameplay video on the gameplay channel, whereby that's what she did, and it was a really good, perfect example of how to do this as well. A little bit of waffling here, not a fan of that. The whole point though is to make sure we are as strong as possible for this moment in the game. We go top lane, we activate the ghost, we get cleaved, we don't really care, we're gonna get the stun. And now we're gonna get in front of AD Udyr, I guess. Very strong. What have we noticed about a few of the things when he showed up for ganks, right? What have we noticed? He has held and absorbed waves and pushed waves, not too much this game, and the counter jungling hasn't been over the top, but if you can hold and push waves and of course counter jungle more, then you're gonna have an even better time. Oh look, you're in the river. That's just not natural, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's just not okay, but it is what it is. And if you're the Rengar in this particular situation, put yourself in my shoes if I'm the Zyra or the Ornn. You think I'm sitting in the bush as a Zyra against a Rengar? Do you think I'm gonna sit there and say, well, he's coming this way, I guess. If he's ahead of me, no. So the Rengar's making a dumb play. You can't say, well, look at the AD Udyr. Well, he farmed and got strong. He has 8 out of 17 KP. It's less than 50%. It's not like he's run over the map and gotten all the kills. Of course, the Hecarim gameplay that I put out as well showcased that. There's so many ways to play the game right now. But if you're farming jungler, maintaining good sequencing, 147 CS in your elo, you're gonna have so much more gold than everybody. Don't think that you have to rotate to every scenario. Rotate to the good fights, to the fights that have lesser risk. Or just gank before you sequence or after you sequence. And if you see a jungler doing something random somewhere, then you of course can cut and take objectives, you can cut and counter jungle. You don't always have to finish the sequence. So that's the most important thing. Sequence with serious intent and then cut when you think necessary. Now we've gone for the wolves here. This is a good example. We've gone for the wolves. Ideally we would probably sequence, well, you want to go wolves grump, right? Or you go for the grump and you go for the wolves and you're carrying going up. But our sequencing is no longer optimized because now we have to use our lead to carry this game. We're equal in gold, right? So what allows us to bust open this game as a farming jungler? I'm glad you asked. We are firstly going to set up for this dragon, make sure you maintain objective control. Then we're going to run to the mid lane and say, hey, that's a wave that needs to be pushed out, and you take all. Hey, I have a herald I can use to bust down a tower. Okay, force rotations. I'm going to clear the vision here. I'm controlling the rivers, the swoop method. We talked about this in the video, how you must jungle in season 13, which of course is a real add-on to this. I try to make every video sort of interconnected. Now we're waiting. She pushes up, she E's, we don't really care, we activate the ghost, we get this done. We're exhausted again, that's not really gonna do anything. Pyke gets a kill, Miasma hits us, we reposition, we don't stay to take the bad fights. Now we look, we're gonna reposition. There's a full-on fight going on here. We are the absolute strongest beast here. Can we sustain up on Raptors perhaps? Yes, that's a good idea. Let's drag and secure some more camps. No hesitation on the farm. 166 CS. Karma moves up from the mid lane, hopefully you saw that. Can we make the pick here? Can we force the fight here? We have the cannon in the top lane. Let's go. Activate the button. Okay, when you have damage, when you're strong, when you farm, when you know your champion, know when you are fed enough to be able to make this kind of play. And if you're a farming jungler, and you're a Karthus, and you are a Shyvana, and you're a Nocturne, and you don't know at what point you become this level 13 huge spiking menace, well, you need to learn that. You need to learn that, because look at this. We just ran over the game. We were equal in gold, now we're up 2.2k. Here we go. Flash is burned from the anticipated hook. We have obviously unstoppable if we wanted to use it. And of course now she ults. We avoided ult actually beautifully. That was a really great sequence by the Udyr. That was a really good sequence to avoid all of the Cassiopeia spells and get the kill. We now have 11,000 gold at 18 minutes. The next highest in the game actually looks like the Rengar at 8.2 thousand gold. So the enemy jungler's done a good job. We didn't focus on him, but if you are the kind of jungler who's this Rengar, and you think, well, damn man, what are my team doing to this Udyr? The Udyr just sequenced, chose some very specific good moments to gank and fight, got to the mid game, and just ran it over because he had so much more gold and so much more experience than anybody else. As a farming jungler, this is your goal. I hope this enlightens you just a little bit. And don't forget that, once you do that, as long as you adhere to good macro and understand exactly how to close games out properly, you will take the previous scene where we were to where we are now, 34-16. And look at that gold lead, look at the KDA. We've gone full AD. We are in total and utter control of this game. There's nothing the enemy team can do, and that's exactly what you're looking to do when you play champions like this. Even if you want a bit more help on how to close games, please click the video in the box on the top right.